Hello everybody. Next we look at phasors mathematically. Why do we need to study phasors? And AC circuits are best represented with the help of phasors. We know that AC current or alternating current is the current which is basically having a positive as well as a negative swing. Something that looks like this. So it has a positive swing as well as a negative swing. So that means if we are having a resistor through which an AC current is flowing, one time the current will flow like this and the other time it will flow in the opposite direction. So that is what is alternating current. An alternating current can be represented best with the help of phasors. And phasors you have already seen previously in the just previous video. Now phasors are easier to use mathematically. That is the reason why we actually use phasors for AC circuit analysis in network theory. That is a major reason why we use phasors, because phasors are very easily used using calculator. We can calculate very easily. Even if you are doing a pen and paper calculation, it can be done easily. It is not that difficult, as opposed to using a sine and cosine and other trigonometric relations. It is best to use phasors. Now what is a phasor? Phasor is a complex number that represents the amplitude and phase of a sinusoid. For example, consider a phasor like this. This phasor is Z. Now this phasor is lying in a complex plane. This plane is called as a complex plane. And within this complex plane, we are having a phasor, and that phasor at this particular moment of time is at this particular position. Let's say that it is at an angle of phi and having a length of r. So Z is a phasor, and that phasor is having a magnitude of r. You should be very clear about the terminologies that I am using. It is having a magnitude of r and a phase angle of phi. Similarly, if you would try to draw the projections of this in the real axis and in the imaginary axis, let us call the real axis as x. Sometimes it is also represented as sigma, and the imaginary axis as j, y, or in some certain textbooks it is also represented as j omega. J omega is a better notation. Anyway, so it has, j stands for imaginary. You all know that j is basically under root of -1, imaginary. So if this has a projection of, let's say, x1, and this side it has a projection in the imaginary axis of, say, y1, then there are three ways in which the phasor Z can be represented. That is very important for us to understand. The first way that we can represent Z is a polar form where we write R as the magnitude with an angle of phi. So this is called as the polar form. Next, Z is equal to, writing it in exponential form, wherein we write the magnitude R and the angle we represent it as e raised to power j and the angle phi. Okay, this is called as the exponential form. This is called as the exponential form. And the third one is Z is equal to, with the help of projections, x1 plus j y1. This is called as the rectangular form. This is called as the rectangular form. So you can write any phasor in the polar form or in the exponential form or in the rectangular form. Generally in network theory you will find it written in this or in this method. Okay. Now when we are talking about a phasor here the phasor is not moving. If suppose the phasor would have been moving, let me draw a rotating phasor. Let's say we are having a real and imaginary axis, something like this, and we are having a phasor, and the phasor is, let me use a different color. Okay, so let me draw the phasor like this. Now this phasor is not still, that means it is not stopped at that position. Suppose it is moving. It is moving such that the angle phi is varying, and it is varying with respect to with respect to time, sorry. Then I will write d phi by dt is basically omega, which is called as the angular velocity. Angular velocity or angular frequency. It is the speed with which this is rotating. Just imagine that there is a fan which has only a single blade, and that is rotating in this direction. Okay. Now if you would look at this particular point, the phasor will rotate and it will reach here, then it will go here, and then it will come here, and finally it will again come here. So it is rotating in this particular direction. Okay, it is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. So if you would look in this particular axis, what will you find? You will find out that the projection of this one, when it is here, the projection is in this y-axis, the projection of that is going to be 0. Then suppose it is going to come here, the projection is going to be this much. Then if you would look at this one, the projection is going to be how much? The projection is going to be here. Similarly, if it reaches, let's say here, the projection is going to be here. So like that, what we will see interestingly is that as this phasor is rotating in this direction, its projection in y-axis is going from bottom to top and again coming back and again going down and again coming up. So here the projection will go up, down and up. If I am going to draw that separately, how will it look like? Suppose if I am going to go up, I am going to go down, I am going to go up. So this is how the projection is changing. Okay. Now if suppose I am going to travel this in the forward direction, then how will it look like? Going up, down, going up, down, going up, down. And what is this? This is basically a sinusoid waveform, or sometimes called as sinusoid waveform. Basically it is cosine waveform. That's why a cosine waveform is always said to be represented by a rotating phasor. And what is the frequency or what is the velocity with which it is rotating? It is rotating with a velocity of omega. That's why we write cos omega t. Okay. Now I have previously told in the previous video that cos omega t plus some angle theta can be written as, suppose there is a magnitude, there is an amplitude of A, then we can write it as A angle of theta. So this is the reason why we basically use a phasor for everything. And a phasor has a polar form, it has a exponential form, and it has a rectangular form. One more thing that we can see here is that x1 can be basically written in terms of r and phi as it's a projection, so it is r cos phi. Similarly, y1 can be written as r sin phi. Therefore, this rectangular form can also be written as z is equal to r cos phi plus j sin phi, r sin phi, sorry. Or we can take r commonly outside and write it as cos phi plus j sin phi. So it can be interchanged in any one of this form, but calculator wise, if you look at the calculator will basically go between polar and rectangular. So you can write this in this format, or you can write this in this format. That means you can write the polar form into rectangular form and the rectangular form back into polar form. And how? With the help of this equation, we can do that. So here what we are doing, we are going from polar form to rectangular form. How? We know r and phi in polar form. We are able to write what is x and what is y in rectangular form. So this is x, this much is x, and this much is y. So if I know r and phi, I can write the rectangular form. And similarly, if I know the rectangular form, let's say if I know x and y, will I be able to find out r and phi? If I know x and y, will I be able to find out r and phi? Yes, I can find out, because r is going to be basically x square plus y square, the whole under root, and phi is going to be tan inverse of y by x. How? By looking at this particular triangle, you can say that. Okay, so I can convert the rectangular form into the polar form also, and this is what generally takes place in the calculator. So you don't need to do this calculation with by pressing a few keys. You will be able to get directly the conversion from polar form to rectangular form and back to polar form from rectangular form. So it is interchangeable. Now, why I am saying so much? Because in AC circuit, everything is either written in polar form or rectangular form. That is the reason why we are doing this. Next, let us see that what is the mathematics of it. What is the maths of phasors? I will not take much time because I don't need to spend a lot of time in it. If suppose you are having two phasors like x plus jy, so x1 plus jy1, and you need to add it with another x2 plus jy2, the procedure is you take the real components and add them together, and you take the imaginary components and add them together. So real component will be x1 plus x2, and the imaginary components will be y1 plus y2. That is how you do the addition. Okay, that is how you do the addition. Similarly, if you want to do subtraction, it will be x1 plus jy1 minus of x2 minus jy2. Then you subtract the real components together plus j, then you take the imaginary components and subtract them together. Can we do something like this? Let's say, can we do r let's say R1 angle phi 1 plus R2 angle phi 2. Can we do it and write it like R1 plus R2 angle phi 1 plus phi 2? Can we do that? No, this is wrong. We can never do this. This is one of the mistakes that most of the people make. Wrong method. You can never do it. Then how do you do it? You have to first convert. Remember, look at this very carefully. You have to first convert the polar form into rectangular form, both of them, and then do the addition. So addition and subtraction is only possible in the rectangular form and not in the polar form. You should be very clear, because most of the people make this silly mistake. Okay, so it is not possible to do the polar form of addition or subtraction. You have to do only in rectangular form. But of course, if you would do it in a calculator, you will get the answer, because the calculator will automatically do the conversions and get you the answer. Okay, but never in paper. In pen and paper, you can never do this directly. Okay, so this is wrong. Never do it. Next, let us go to multiplication and division. So in the case of multiplication and division, the funny thing is, for multiplication and division, we always use the polar form. That means if you are having R1 angle phi 1 multiplied with, if we want to use, R1 angle phi 1 and multiply it with R2 angle phi 2, all that we have to do is R1 into R2 angle, now very carefully, phi 1 plus phi 2. The two angles are added, they are not multiplied. Okay. Similarly, if you are having two numbers to, if you are having two numbers to divide, let's say R1 angle phi 1 divided by R2 angle phi 2, then that is done by R1 divided by R2 angle phi 1 minus phi 2. It is subtraction of the angles. It's the subtraction of the angles. Okay. Now, can we do the multiplication of x1 plus j y1 and x2 plus j y2? Well, one of the methods is you convert them directly into polar. You convert them directly into polar, like this one is converted to this and this is converted to this, and then you do the multiplication. That is the most easiest method. Or you can do it in another way, that is by considering this as, let's say, a plus b into a minus b and do the multiplication. So just consider them as a1 plus b1 and a2 plus b2 and do the multiplication. Okay, like that you can do, but the most easiest way is to convert it first into its polar form, like this and like this, and then do the multiplication. So always remember, multiplication and division is not there in rectangular form. You do it in rectangular form. Okay, so this one we don't do. Multiplication or division we don't do. We can do, but we don't do. Okay, so if you have anything to multiply, two complex numbers to multiply, so there are two complex numbers, z1 into z2, or if you want to do z1 divided by z2, you use always the polar form. Always you use the polar form. Whereas if you want to do addition of two or subtraction of two complex numbers, you always use rectangular form. Okay. Now, some of the other results that I would say of this one is, suppose if you are having z, which is either r angle phi, or it is written as x plus j y, and if you want to find out 1 by z, that means I am talking about reciprocal. If you want to find the reciprocal, that is 1 by z, then the format is you write 1 by r angle minus phi straight away. 1 by r angle minus phi. If you want to do it in this one, yes, you can write it as x plus jy. You can use this in calculator and you will get the answer, no problem. Or you can do the complex conjugate multiplication. I suppose you know, if this is plus, then you write x minus jy, and then you get the answer. But as I said previously, it's very simple for you to do it in the polar form. So the best thing is to directly use the polar form, or you can even use the calculator to directly calculate this. Okay, so that's how we take the reciprocal. Next is how to take the square root. So how to take the square root. So if you want to take the square root of, let's say, an imaginary complex number, not imaginary, a complex number z, which is either r angle phi or written as x plus jy, if you want to find out root of z, then root of z is given by taking root of r, and the angle is phi divided by 2. Angle phi divided by 2. That will be very clear here. Please be very, very clear here that you have to use this particular method of taking the square root of root z. So you take the root of r and you take half of the angle. The last one, mathematically, what we do is something called as, something that we call it as the complex conjugate. What is complex conjugate? If you are having a z, which is x plus jy, okay, or which is written as r angle phi, then its complex conjugate, you will write it as complex ex. Complex conjugate, we will write it as is z star. And what is the value of z star? Nothing. You just invert the sign in between. So if it is x plus jy, then you write x minus jy. And if it is in polar form, then you basically write it as r angle minus phi. R angle minus phi. That is its complex conjugate. Okay, that is the complex conjugate of the phasor. If you ask me, diagrammatically, how do we represent it? For example, suppose there is a phasor diagram like this, and suppose there is a phasor which, let me draw it, let me draw it using a different color. Okay. Okay, let's draw something like this. So if this is the phasor, then obviously this will be x and this will be y. What will be its complex conjugate? X will remain as such, but y will go negative. So its complex conjugate will be basically this. So if this is z, then z star will be this. So as you can see, it will be the mirror image. If suppose you are having some z2 here, then its complex conjugate will be the mirror image here, z2 complex conjugate. So you can see here what has happened. The y portion, the imaginary portion gets negative. So suppose if you are having something, let's say 3 plus j2, then you can write its complex conjugate. If suppose this is z and this is z complex, then you will write it as 3 minus j2. If it is 3 minus j5, then you write its complex conjugate as 3 plus j5. You just invert the imaginary value. Imaginary value you have to flip, or you have to change the sign. Okay, if suppose it is minus 4 plus j6, then it is going to be minus 4 minus j6. See, I am not changing the real part sign, I am only changing, or I am inverting the imaginary part sign. Similarly, if I am having suppose minus 10 minus j3, then I will write it as minus 10 plus j3. That is a complex conjugate. Okay, so these are the mathematics of phasors. This you have to remember, write it somewhere in a piece of paper, and always you will have to use these rules again and again. They will come. Please be very careful. Thank you.